Yeah, sure. Where in Minnesota you come from? What? That's because it's in the airport, right?
Yes, it's the other side of
That's
the
the inside of the freeway from, yeah.
port smelling, yeah.
There's been a lot of fun going on. Past. It seems a lot. When you go to, you know, get-
And
there's
we
one
have-
right there.
Here, picture of the building. You know,
And it's somehow over.
next youngest.
Well, right after the mom's
Flight,
yeah.
I was
We
back
were
there,
leaving,
I was
and we saw the
back and like.
that one too, going right across the street. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's people to call.
There isn't that on side by the shin, going right across. Maybe
So I go raise my back.
that would have been like.
Now you're.
I need to pick up the rest.
I love it.
That it was like to me about.
No, you were there.
Next week. Yeah, but I saw. Page. It's a picture of that one.
You needed that, right?
What about the movie now?
The old airport. That's all.
You can't just pull up at the curb.
What the hell?
And then
What's going on with it?
the counter. And then you get a ticket to just go
Yeah.
through and then you have to get through.
Yes.
Then you have to get all through. I did. The emotional, I don't know what's going on because.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have all those other ones.
Okay. Well, that was run out like the fourth rank and, yeah.
I've not seen all the ball, but.
Most of the stuff I really.
Yeah.
Well. If, you know, Jeff Gosling's probably the best source for Toyota cars if you know, as far as suppliers are concerned.
Right, she's joining us from his office.
Yeah, it's incredible. Everything. They cut it off. That's fine, Randy. It can be special. We're cool with that. It's probably warmer in there. Yeah.
If you can multitask, we should have more than do this guy.
Yes. Okay.
Nice job, Spacey.
For everybody.
What happened to it?
Deanne, can you hear us?
Marshall Williams has mic going. Really?
And there's Giggle.
Well, later on, I see the other room, so we know.
So it's
We know. What a thought. Say not.
Are you all set, Deanne?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Deanne?
It was fine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All righty, it is 6:01 p.m. on Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. And I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Georgetown to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call is next. I am Lynette Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell,
Here.
Deanne Powell,
Here,
John Jennings.
Here.
Paul Hinton will not be with us tonight. Mary Smith. Rich Barrows.
Here.
Wonderful. Agenda approval. Does anybody have anything they need to add to the agenda? Or delete? Or if not, who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I will. I'll second it.
Why don't you go ahead and say that?
I'll approve the agenda dated October 25th, 2022. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the payables. These are dated October 7th through October 20th, 2022. Any comments or questions on the payables?
Just something to make me laugh that you spent as much on coffee as you did in last month.
Both very important.
Everybody's awake. And talking to I'll make a motion to approve the payables for October 7th through October 20th, 2022.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If you could speak up a little bit more, Deanne, I barely.
sorry about that. I'm on my tablet right now because
I'm just,
trying to, make me crazy.
okay, that's better. Just now it's better. I just wanted to give you some feedback. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have minutes from our last meeting, which was on October 11th, 2022. It was a regular meeting. Any comments or questions on the minutes?
I'd like to see the audience business to have that be slightly rephrased. Cindy didn't exactly request more. She requested we add an additional person to staff. And it just, request more town staff. Sounds like maybe she wanted to use the staff more or something. I think additional person or something should be rephrased.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Also, number 4 on page 3, it says water department, 2-door, garage shop, yada, yada. And it says that Rob made the motion and then it doesn't say anything more about John or the vote.
I'm sorry, okay. Item number
4 on we're still on the regular meeting minutes last time. At the top of it's page number 3, but the top of the front of the second page is number 4, water department, 2-door garage shop thing. You see that?
Okay, you went so quickly at first, I didn't have the reference yet. So yes, I see, there's no second.
Yeah, and it was John and the vote was unanimous. I just, it's bookkeeping or housekeeping or something. We just need. There's also a typo in 6, a couple paragraphs below it.
Okay, so for typos, you can always get a hold of me as we said before the meeting, you don't waste time. Thanks.
And I already contacted Jen about the call to order time and the agenda adjournment time, because those were off, but she's gonna correct those. Anything else?
I asked last time if there was a way for us to get an EIS, an environmental impact study from Excel for all the stuff they're doing over down the, Guanella side. And 2 or 3 of the items, an EIS would solve that. So I really think we need to ask them for one. If we had environmental impacts on the changes in hydrology and stuff, it's proper and necessary, I guess is the way to say it.
Hang on, just one sec. What did you say, Deanne? The very last sentence.
It's proper and necessary when a
Okay.
project like that can affect us this way.
Okay, was that actually mentioned at last meeting?
Yes, I asked if there was a way to see the EIS that Excel had done, and everybody seemed to think there wasn't one.
Okay,
I will, Deanne, I will make a comment when, in my staff review or staff administrator report, I have some comments about that.
okay. Anything else? Okay. Who would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our October 11th, 2022 meeting as corrected?
I will go for it.
I'll second.
I found another minor thing that I'd like to say before we actually vote on it. On the very last page
Okay.
where, yes,
Okay, pause a minute and then go ahead.
the last page where the signatures would be up at near the top is Guanella Pass traffic change. Rick was commenting on having it go a different way. And second sentence down, it says suggested to have the traffic go down Argentine and turn on to 3rd. I think that's really imprecise, and it should say go north on Argentine and turn on to 3rd, or go south or whatever. It just sounds, I don't know where they're going down to. It's not clear.
Thank you. Okay. All right,
I'll still make that motion.
you already,
Okay.
okay. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as corrected. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
I didn't hear you.
I didn't either.
I said aye.
Thank you. Okay, and no opposed, so the motion passes. First action item on our agenda tonight is a request from Donna Klein, who is the, let me see, get your title right. The president of the Project Support Senior Center. Welcome.
Hi. So I went from one to the other with retirement. So,
Let's make sure you can be heard.
okay. One of the things that we've done a lot of project support. The inside, we painted the first floor, it's all painted now. We replaced the carpet that was in the common area and the linoleum that was in the dining room. We put that engineered wood flooring in. Added some drapes and things like that. And we now have a real senior center. And VOA has a really nice dining room to cook in, which, by the way, they do probably 40 to 50 meals on wheels out of there, plus a good 20 meals, congregate meals there, plus they started the meals up here. So they're busy. And Cindy also takes people to doctor's appointments, post office, those kinds of things. We are fully functioning and quite busy. And the next project up on our 30-year agenda of things to do was to, we thought, repaint the outside of the building. And when I mentioned that to Iowa Springs, they said, no, you need to talk to this preservation architect first, because I don't think your building should have been painted. And I said, well, okay. They came up and they said, no, this building should have never been painted, and it was painted with the wrong paint. The building needs to breathe. The moisture from the inside, all the people we have inside, has to come out. Well, the paint was evidently kind of a latex rubberized kind of thing, and so that's why the picture of the peeling across the side of the building in multiple places. And I've learned new words. The veranda is deteriorating. The balustrade, which I would have called a banister, on top would need to be replaced. If we do all of the lower part, we have to do the upper part. So I applied for a grant through the State Historic Preservation Fund. And we will find out December 1st if we get it. They will send an email, either yay, or you can apply again next year. Well, we really need to get this done this year, so I'm positive we're gonna get that grant. That grant is a big grant. I had no idea how expensive this kind of thing was. So the whole grant is $317,323, I believe it is. We have to come up as a 501c3, we have to come up with 25% of that, which is $79,315, of which we have some. We have about $27,000 to $28,000. We had this very nice couple come in last summer, and they weren't even from Clear Creek. They're actually originally from Florida. Their son lives in Celaya. They were visiting and took a trip and came up, and they were in project support. We explained to them what all we do and took them on a tour of the building and everything. And they said, that's really nice. Do you have any, capital expenses that are coming up and stuff? We said, well, we're in the middle of our elevator remodernization and stuff. And we're thinking about retaining the building and that. And they sat down on the couch and they talked amongst themselves, and then they handed us a $25,000.
That's a nice spot.
It was in the bathroom.
Did you get their address from them? Right.
Said it was very nice. Thank you. And then they said to keep in touch, so I'm going to keep in touch. But we put that money directly right into our 30-year fund, so that we would have that when we get this grant and get us a good start. So I think I listed out all of the people that maybe not on yours. I've also approached the Loop Railroad, Loveland Ski Area, the Grinnell Pass Brewery, Cabin Creek Brewery, El Pomar, Albert Fry, all the other towns, and I haven't heard from Silver Plume yet, but I've been to the other towns. The issue is this is the end of a budget year, so I'm pretty sure you don't have any money for it, because it is the last quarter. What I would like to do is be in your budget for next year. If they notify you on December 1st, they say it can take 6 weeks before you have to come in with your certified check for $79,200. So that's why I would like to have them out in your budget, and then I could call you and say, you got it, okay? And we could add you to our 30-year fund. I've been told that I need to have a dollar amount maybe for you. So I got 10 grand. Yeah.
Give us a hint, yeah.
I don't know which, but it looks like this is hard for me to say. I need a lot of money. But anything from $1 to a couple thousand, anywhere in that neighborhood would be so greatly appreciated and help us a long way with our project.
Okay. Well,
I don't expect it.
And thank you for not pressuring us. Because we're just diving into the budget. We're having our first work session on the budget tonight. So, yeah, that's good to know. But I know I would hope we'd be able to find some money for you. Because it is, as I said, it's a worthy cause. I mean, all of us are looking at what our options are as we go grayer and grayer, and it's so nice to have that available to the residents up here so that, you know, they can ease into that instead of having to go down all the way to the big city.
Yeah.
They can stay in their home territory.
Well, and we have reinstituted the senior advisory committee. They've had 2 meetings now. And they picked out 3 items that are important. They feel, one of them being transportation. One of them is mental health, specifically depression. And the elderly experience a lot of depression because there is so much pain in your life as you grow older. It's, can I stay here? I don't want to go somewhere else. And the other is they're going to try to get some action on assisted living up here. Because that's another issue in that you spent your whole life up here and then you have to go to an unfamiliar place, unfamiliar people. And your family has to travel down the hill to see you. And so they're gonna give that a push and see if they can't, that affordable housing money, that IHOP money, and see if they can't do that. Now, the proposed house number 2, I think it's on like 5th and Colorado Boulevard.
Okay.
Springs. They have done this peeling the paint off, and they are now a natural brick. They're just finishing it up right now. Oh, if our building looks like that, it's extra work.
Cool.
It is gorgeous. And the same company that's doing that hose house is the one who proposed to do ours. Also, the land, the gentleman who is doing what used to be the Hanson Lodge, he has a great deal of restoration experience in Boston. And he is hand turning all those posts that are in the ballast. Because it's hard to find 88 of them. So he bid it on turning those himself. And wow, he has the equipment and the will to do it. So yeah, that would be special that we did that. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Yeah. And thank you for considering us.
Any questions from anybody before Donna heads out? Deanne, did you have any questions?
No, I would just put in a attaboy because the senior center down in Idaho Springs is really nice. Like Donna was just saying that our older people, once they're not allowed to be in their homes, it's a wonderful option. And it's just so sad that all of us that live here suddenly have our support system ripped out from under us and we're sent off to the nether regions. It's better to stay here. So yeah, no, I like the project support's done a lot of good things. I did elder care for a while and they brought lunches and they did all sorts of wonderful things. I would like to see them supported as best we can.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Oh, and as a side note, Judy Wilson,
Yes.
she's our newest tenant. Yeah,
Judy Blue.
yes.
Yes.
Now, but most people still know her.
I know. Yeah.
And she's our newest
Yeah.
tenant. We are done to have her. She was good. I
Yeah.
really need that. I think that's,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those people out of those apartments,
Yes.
they're doing something.
All right. Thanks so.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're trying to bring programs up here to more than just the OA, but the programs that we do, we can't get something going up here. Tamara is a ball of fire.
Okay. All right. Take care. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have, first reading. No, it's a public hearing, sorry. For resolution number 17, series 2022. And this is the declination of the family program. And I'm gonna let you do the intro.
Great. I know we've been sitting on this for a while, and Jerry's given us feedback and comment as he did his research on the municipalities that he's currently working with. I also went on the listserv through CML just to kind of get a take on what, in general, what are municipalities, and I actually printed it out. I mean, it's a lot of paper of municipalities that commented. Not everyone comments, but those who comment, they all are opposing. Just so you know, there's not one municipality that actually is going to go with the program. So doing our own internal research, we were kind of rest assured that what we offer is just as good, if not better, than what the state's program is. And it's already included in the staff's benefits program. And so this is an add-on, an additional program that you can participate in as a municipality or as an individual. So, but in order for a municipality to participate, it's kind of a requirement for us to make a resolution to either approve to be part of the program or to decline being part of the program. And so because we already have a program that's sufficient enough, we don't believe it's the best thing to force our employees to be part of a program when we already have a program. And so then we made notification to all staff, letting them know that we're declining, but they could individually participate if they wanted to. So that's in a nutshell.
Do you have anything to add, Jerry?
No, it's public hearing, so you need to allow the opportunity for anyone to comment.
Okay,
Since we sent
let me
it.
formally open, let me grab the time is.
Rick, can you tell us what exactly our existing situation?
Hang on, Dan, just 1 second. I'm going to formally open the public hearing right now. It's 6:23. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your question, Deanne.
What is the situation that our employees have right now that this would replace were we to participate in it?
So it's a paid time off program that we have currently, allows someone who is sick or who wants to take vacation time. We kind of all lump it into the same. The state's program is basically for someone who gets injured or has a baby and they need to take off time, they could use that paid time off. We also have like a short-term disability policy that would cover if our staff gets hurt outside of job, and then if they are hurt inside, they have workers' comp. So we already have two parts of that program built into our benefits.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do we have anybody from the public that wants to comment?
We do not.
Okay, no comment from the public. I will go ahead and close the public hearing. It is 6:25. Any discussion from the board? Okay. I believe there is a recommended motion in your packet.
I'll make the motion. The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Georgetown, Colorado, as the governing body, hereby formally resolves to decline participation in paid family medical leave insurance family (parentheses) program from under Colorado Revised Statutes, sections 8-13. 3-522. Town employees are nevertheless authorized to participate on their own, and information about the participation shall be given to all current and future town employees.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 15, I believe.
Yep.
Yes.
17.
Series 2022. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we have ordinance number 7, series 2022. And this is first reading. This is an ordinance amending chapter 13.70 of the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning cross-connection control regulations.
So, and just a quick summary to try to, I revised this action item so that you have a little bit more information to understand what it is. After talking to Ryan, he kind of gave me a little more details so even I can understand it better. We have been in violation in the past. And all it takes is for 3 property owners to fail their backflow prevention inspection. And if that happens, it takes almost 2 years to get back into compliance. It's not something easy. And the last time we were out of compliance was in 2019.
you have 60 days to replace that and remedy the problem.
Correct.
Let him finish.
Yes. So you have 60 days, but what's happened is it's basically by the end of the year you have until to do it. We don't have any deadline dates in our system. And so what happens is some of these property owners are waiting long time. And if it comes like right now, if they wait 60 days, sure, they'll be in compliant. But for the year, we end in non-compliant. And that's why we're an issue. And so if we can push the deadline up to August 1st, therefore it gives them 60 days and plenty of time to make sure they get in compliance. So that we also.
Is that by December?
By December,
Got it.
correct.
The end of.
Yeah. That's correct. And so that explains why we want a deadline to help understand the fee, where'd that come from? So if we become, if a property owner is in violation, the state requires us to send out a violation letter to let people know that you got to do this to everybody in the whole town. It's a requirement by the state that you have to do it. That costs the town $1,600 every single time to do that. So in order to recoup that money, we're putting a fine that would be a portion of that. So it would be a fair, all it takes is 3. So, I mean, it's a lot of time and labor and money that it's put on the town. And so we're saying we're going to make it a portion of that fee so that we can kind of recoup some of that money that the state is mandating us to do. And so the $5 is really just the cost of the stamps or whatever, or the printing of the paper from the town. So that's why we added 4. Oh, and one other thing, sorry. And the other thing is, Ryan did a study figuring out what municipalities charge, and that was across the board, $400. So they did the same thing. They're doing a portion of the same thing that they have to do. So that's where it's consistent, and that's where we get the money from. Good.
The backflow preventers, are these commercial or are they residential as well? I mean, the house we all have backflow preventers, right?
Correct, but it's the commercial
Commercial,
backflow
okay.
preventers that are required to be tested annually.
But it doesn't say anywhere in here that I saw that it was commercial.
I thought it was residential. I thought you were talking about our water meters.
That's what
It is commercial. I believe it's for commercial. It's the commercial inspection that's required by state.
I just thought we might.
Want to specify commercial?
Well, I looked at
I was confused.
I looked it up, and it's a backflow preventer for houses too.
It's probably in that section 13.70.
Yeah. Let's see, it may not be
You just
necessary.
didn't have it in.
My bad.
We don't know yet, but let me check.
Didn't we ever sign that letter out a couple of years ago when we had issue on that?
Yes,
Yeah, so,
yes.
and I know it was, at that point, it was directed to commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah.
That's what I remember, but then I went and looked and now. But I didn't look at the code, sorry.
So far as just owner, I mean, several pages, so I'm trying to read a whole bunch in a hurry.
This is when Evelyn Wood really could.
Leave them alone.
You date
Sorry.
yourself, there's the.
Jesus. It's all great, we still like to.
Right.
Which one? Yeah, it's responsibility. So far as I can tell, it says responsibility, of the owner, all the way through. What might be helpful is, and then there's specific provisions on different businesses, multi-story building, manufacturing, laundry. Well, my suggestion would be this. Clearly you want to have the August 1 deadline and the penalty in place. It's a fairly long chapter that this appears in. And what I'd like to do is spend time with Ryan and Rick. And to the extent we need to indicate elsewhere in the chapter that it applies to commercial and our residential, or the distinction between the two, I think that's a larger discussion. I'm glad it's raised. But I think you can adopt this without needing to make that change, so long as we can follow up.
Well, and this is first reading, so we'll have a second reading.
Yeah. If we can find a way to address that issue on second reading, we will.
Okay.
But that that'll give us time to figure it out.
Okay. Deanne's got a question.
Yes, Deanne?
I don't see any place where we are putting the responsibility onto the owners of the valve that needs to be checked in providing information to us. It says they have to have it done by August 1st, and that implies that they will then tell us. But if we don't have it written down that they have to have it done by August 1st and report it to the town no later than the 15th or 30th or something, we're going to end up chasing people down, and people will fall through the cracks. We need to make some kind of responsibility onto them that it has to be completed by August 1, and they have to report it to the town.
So I can, I guess Rob or I could even answer that. Once someone gets an inspection, the inspector has to notify the town. And so that's what Ryan had told me. So that's a way that kind of closes that loop.
Right.
So we get notification immediately if they're in compliant or not, and then they have 60 days to make that compliant.
If they're not.
Yeah.
Because it is, well,
Does that make sense to you, Deanne?
No, that would. It wasn't in any of the written stuff that I read, though. One thing I do wonder about is how are we, there are going to be people who drag their feet just like they do on the water bills and everything else. How are we going to keep track of them enough to know that, like, do we put a little red X over every address as it comes in? How are we going to be able to chase the ones that aren't cooperating?
So that's a good question, Deanne. The first is their water gets turned off because it's in the code now. That will be a response. The town will shut their water off. Second is they'll get a fine. And they will be pushed to action. So that's why we're putting those in, is try to push them to make them do it.
Is this more bookkeeping on, say, for example, Jennifer or the new town person to keep track of, though? Who records?
Ryan will keep track of that.
All right, that's what
Ryan already keeps track of it right now.
Thank
Yep.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion? All righty, so we're gonna get clarification on this being applicable to commercial.
Yeah.
And would anybody like to make the motion that is in your packet?
No, I'll make the motion. I move to approve ordinance number 7. We decided it's going to be six.
Well, it's 7 on the agenda.
Okay, that's a mistake.
All right, it is number 6 in the.
Six.
So,
Okay, so 6,
Yeah.
series
Good.
2022 on the first reading.
I'll
on
second
first
it.
reading. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 6, series 2022 on first reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear it.
I,
Thank you. I saw your hand wave, but no sound. Okay, so that was unanimous. Okay, next we have a letter of support. And this is for the Clear Creek County co-response grant application. We were requested to provide this, and I'm going to let Rick handle the intro on this one as well.
Okay, great. Has everyone had a chance to read this? Would you like for me to read it? Okay, I don't want to read it if that's redundant. Yes? Okay. All right, this is a letter that the county has asked us to it's a template letter that they've asked us to be a support. It's a letter of support. So it's for the Peace Officers Behavioral Health Support and Community Partnerships Grant Program Manager, Colorado Verdola. And so this is a letter in which Randy, our marshal, has crafted through and made some changes. But it's basically to Mrs. Bowman. I'm writing on behalf of the town of Georgetown to express support of the application to the POMH grant program submitted by the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office in partnership with Clear Creek County Emergency Medical Services and the Clear Creek County Health and Human Services Department to implement a co-responder community response program. With the implementation of a co-responder program, Clear Creek County will utilize evidence-based strategies to dispatch mental and behavioral health professionals to tandem with law enforcement and first responders in cases involving mental illness or substance abuse disorders. By ensuring that professional mental health care is provided during an initial encounter, this program will aim to improve safety for consumers and officers, reduce arrests and repeat encounters, and connect consumers with the treatment and services that they need. As we witness the alarming prevalence of mental and behavioral health crisis in communities across the country, including our own, it is critical for the safety of our community that we bridge the gap between first responders and civilians experiencing mental health crisis. We look forward to continued collaboration between the town of Georgetown and Clear Creek County as we endeavor to create a safer community and greater appreciate your time and consideration of this application.
Okay, and that was signed by Rick as town administrator. The pressure on this was that their grant application is due by the end of the month. So this was opportune. So, now all we need to do is just formalize that with a motion from the board to approve providing that letter of support.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I thought I wouldn't hold my weight.
You're fine.
I move to approve the letter of support from the town of Georgetown for the Clear Creek County, Colorado application to the Peace Officers Behavioral Health Support and Community Partnerships Grant Program.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the letter of support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that was unanimous. Next, we have the new auditor.
So we gave you the RFP in your packet. I know it was coming late is because we were struggling to make sure we get all this done. We spent a couple days actually reviewing both proposals. Let me back up for a second. As you know, we've had Cutler and Associates for a while, and it seems like over the past few years, the service has diminished, and that is why we even brought this up to you. It's not meeting deadlines. We became to the point where it's time to find a new auditor. So once we made that decision, I believe we brought that to you guys already. We kind of did it in two ways, the same way we did it with the North Argentine project. We put it on bidnetdirect.com, which is our bidding system for municipalities. And then I also went on CML's listserv, which has been a huge helpful tool for all of us, to then ask the question, if you're satisfied with your auditor, and would you highly recommend them to us? And if you're not, then we don't want to know. But if you like your auditor, we'd like to hear back. So we heard back from 6 other municipalities. And then we put the RFP on BidNet Direct, and then we also sent it to those six audit firms. And so out of the six audit firms, we had two that submitted a proposal. We took the two, that's Hinkle and Mayberry. So that's what we gathered. Mary and I sat down and went through our review process. Our review process kind of consisted in three parts. We wanted outsider analysis too, because we felt like it was important to have an objective perspective. And then thankfully, the person that we chose to talk about it actually had worked for both of those companies. So they were an insider to give us real good insight. Second is how closely the proposals lined up for what we were asking in the RFP. And then third, just the cost analysis. So that's the kind of way that we went through it. We spent hours, and after all this, the feedback we received from Kyle confirmed what we had already gathered through when we reviewed the proposal, which was Hinkle and Associates, or Hinkle and Company is a larger firm. They were very highly recommended, but they're a larger firm, and they're also multi-state. So it's a large entity that has lots of auditors. What Kyle confirmed to us is what we were fearing is we really want to make sure that we have the same person consistently, which was nice with Cutler, but with Hinkle, they even said it in the RFP or in their proposal that they couldn't guarantee the same person because they have, lots of auditors that work for them. And so that was something that Kyle said, you really want to make sure you're thinking best for Georgetown. And another insight he gave us from working there is these larger firms will send the younger or less experienced auditors to these towns for their training, because this is a small town compared to Denver. So they kind of get trained by working with us. They also only said that they can give us 90 hours total, whereas the other company said that they would give us 120 hours. So that's a lot more. And they promised that they would be the same consistent auditor every single time. So it was, one's a smaller firm, one is a larger firm. The smaller firm is the same one that Idaho Springs actually uses too, and they highly recommend it. And they would promise to be the person to give us more time with them, and that they promised to do everything that we asked for. And there was no compromise at all. And one thing that we just wanted to make note to you guys too is they did submit 10, and we gave it to all of you, where the other company submitted one, the large firm, and wanted us to kind of make those copies and so forth. So that was kind of like a real strike, a yellow card is when we were looking at it, and you didn't follow the directions. And so it came down to this. It came down to the last part was the cost analysis. Mayberry gave a quote of 10,500. And the other one was 9,500. So if you actually look at the numbers based on the amount of time that they're giving us, it's probably very similar, if not more, on the other side, because it was 120 hours at 10.5 versus 90 hours at 9.5. So after all of that, Kyle's recommendation was, he liked both groups because he worked, but his recommendation was, I think that you should go with them. And after our assessment, we concluded the same thing. And that is our recommendation, that we would go with Mayberry.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Well, thank you, Rick and Mary, for all that hard work, because I know we've been talking about it for a while, and it's nice to see finally something moving on it. And after reading the proposal from Mayberry, it looked good to me. So anything, I take a motion.
I move to approve the selection of Mayberry and Company LLC to be Georgetown's next auditor.
I'll second.
And moved and seconded to approve the selection of Mayberry and Company LLC to be the town of Georgetown's next auditor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous too.
Good job on that.
All right.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
John,
Okay. Next, we've got the staff items. So start off with the Strauss Park report, which I got this afternoon or from Bob Hamilton, and there's a hard copy in front of you. Any questions or comments on that?
I actually went through it today and the place looks great.
Mhm.
It really does. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look it over or anything like that, but it looks like the construction is fantastic. Cool.
That's great.
I'll make a comment too. Jen Jordan has been meeting with Bob pretty frequently to talk to him, and they feel very confident that the structure will be done for Christmas market.
I was gonna say.
So the structure will be done, but now they're still looking at the options for electricity hookup. And so, they're most likely going to have to do a temporary pole or something like that. But it's just good news that at least we'll have to be able to use the structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
No. They have the dividers up between the.
I don't.
According to the report, not.
No, when I walked through it, there were no dividers up. You could walk right down the middle of it.
Right, and ultimately, I know they're supposed to be
Yeah.
temporary or removable so that they can use it as one huge one or smaller one, so.
Right.
And then are we still planning on staying inside or something? Once this is all put together,
I believe so.
but that won't be done.
That's all in the thing that we got emailed to us right before the meeting. Because they were saying they're gonna paint the inside and some of it's shiplap and some of it's board and batten and all of that is in there.
And I guess the last comment too is the bathroom programmable locks are working properly.
Excellent.
And when I went in there, I was able to open up the bathroom doors. They were clean, warm,
Nice.
and inviting.
And invite.
That's great.
I know,
Terrific.
somebody noticed.
So, okay. Any questions on Strauss Park before we move on? Okay, next up is the administrator's report.
Okay, you've seen my report. I got it in on time, just making sure everyone was aware of that. Worked hard to get that in.
Excellent.
And want to I'm not going to go through that because you already read it.
Yes.
It's long, but I just want to highlight a couple things that I brought to you. I just want to bring your attention. First is tomorrow night, we're going to do an open house at the community center. And here is a flyer. That's it.
Yes.
This will be to invite the public to discuss this ballot measure so that we were just making sure if people have questions, we're going to answer questions and comments, and then for them to see and read the ballot language themselves and to have the comments, on a like an easel kind of thing so they can see it. So Jen has been working on it. It looks great.
Excellent.
So that's just something to your team. That's tomorrow night.
It's
at
also
5.
circulating on social media as well.
Yeah, our website and social media.
Okay.
And it'll start at 5 o'clock and people can just drop in from 5 to 6:30. So that's
Jerry, I noticed you don't have one. You want one?
No,
You
yes.
got it. Great.
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
Thank you, sir.
um,
You're always looking out for me.
I got an email from Congressman Joe Nicholas. It's not as bad as Caribbean. But there's one of the staff members reached out to me and said, I'm reaching out from Congressman Noose's new mountain office. I would love to come meet with you in the Georgetown Board of Selectmen in the next couple months. Would it be possible to schedule a 15 minutes or so to get on the agenda to share, just continue good relationships with Georgetown? So I wanted to let you guys know that they would like to come. So we're going to put it on the agenda. I'm going to speak to her and put it on the agenda. So I wanted you to be aware of that.
Cool.
That's good news stuff. Okay, I want to get into some bad news. So so this one has to do with our paving company, ESI. So I don't know any other way to say this, but they're not going to be able to do the project.
At all?
They're going to do only part of it. The only part of the project that they can do is the concrete right now, which will be the concrete drainage pans. The issue is the temperature that's required by CDOT in order to do the paving, and it is going to be coming 2-hour drive from Aurora, and they cannot guarantee because it cools down quick. And with the temperatures here, if it could sustain around 50 degrees, we'd be fine. But because now it's been, I mean, the next 2 weeks of following, the temperatures are just dropping, and we know that we're getting snow tonight and tomorrow and Thursday. Even though it's not a lot of snow, but the temperature is still preventing the proper curing of the asphalt.
Without heat blankets. Right.
Yeah, well, even then, CDOT still says,
It probably isn't.
this company does this for a living, and they said they can still get it done. But I called around just to make sure and get objective feedback, and everyone said, don't do it.
Yeah,
Right.
now.
So I don't want to jeopardize our money because we don't have a lot of it that goes towards it. So
Mary called
we did a contract with them. Oh, by the way, even if we have had this locked in a month ago, they were still on another project. And they're still finishing up, and they're coming here next. So even if we had this locked in a month ago, we would still be in the same situation. I know. So we tried to go as fast as we could, but it's really on their time. Anyways, they are committed to keeping the contract, and they're going to be doing it in the spring. So same price.
Perfect.
We signed a contract with them, and they agreed that they will hold that to the spring.
Much better.
So that's good news in a bad news situation.
So basically in June.
Now, you said they were still gonna do the concrete work, correct?
That's correct.
Because that sidewalk over on 8th Street, just west of Rose, it's been open all summer and framed in, like the forms there. But it's actually kind of a hazard.
Yeah, I agree, and it will be taken care
When?
of. As soon as possible. I'm waiting on them right now to finalize the scheduling on it. So they actually had a representative that came in today, and we did a walkthrough, and that's when he disclosed to us the bad news. And so we've been back and forth all day in discussion with them, and it was right before I got here is when they committed to the price and everything. So
It's actually good news because they're acknowledging the fact that it's not the best weather.
yeah, and they could still do it for another month or two, even down in the Front Range. They don't have problems, but the temperature is different here. Deanne, as soon as I get word, I'll send out a notification to the board.
Yeah, because basically we've got Halloween in about 2 days. And those forms are sitting there, and it's in front of a house, and I could see people falling over the forms, not seeing them because it's kind of darkish. I see it as a hazard. I actually went to visit the person that lives in the house a couple weeks ago, and you can get across them. It's not anything in the daylight, but we've got 2x4s and then a dip down and then 2x4s and a step up. And it's not okay. And it's been that way for quite some time now.
Hey.
Next item, just to bring your attention, is my latest conversation with Excel. And so this is where I will also comment from what Deanne had mentioned earlier. So this meeting was kind of an urgent meeting for us to discuss with Excel, is because they were requesting a new change, which was a trash rack. Sorry, I couldn't think of it. A trash rack replacement. What this is basically a screen that's on top of their intake where the water's coming in. Currently, that intake has been clogged with debris, which is the debris that we've been complaining about that keeps getting down into our system, and which is causing our intake to do indicators to then shut down a water plant because of so much sediment and turbidity in the water. They were wanting to have a contractor to come change it out and put a screen that has larger holes in it, just for easy language.
Why don't you just open it up and just.
So they were saying that branches were getting it in and leaves, and it was clogging because it's a fine screen. It's debris.
How big is that screen, do you think?
I don't know, 8-inch diameter or so, probably about this big.
Because I've got a screen that I take a floor broom to and clean it up every time. And it's just a matter of going up there every now and then in the spring or during the summer when, you got more organics in the water.
Well,
Yeah.
this time of year, you've got a lot of, leaves coming down.
Sure.
And the wind's blowing it.
So,
Yeah,
the intake is at the bottom and here is the spillway. And so the water is basically now filling back up and it's starting to cause them concern of getting back into the high hazard of where they were in the beginning of why they cut the penstock. It's red flagged as emergency situation that if this dam breaks, it will flood Georgetown. Major impacts in Georgetown. So by draining it, it minimized that and allowed them to kind of take a couple years to do the decommissioning. Now, the problem is when the water gets drained, that sediment now is getting carved out and it's just going down the creek path into our forebay, not forebay, but the lagoon and the lake. And so that whole system now is majorly impacting our system. So that's the issue for them. By changing this trash rack out, it will allow the water to continue to go back down to where they want. They don't want really any water in there. They want to take, but that's where we have issues with it. So we called this meeting to say, I am uncomfortable at this point of allowing your contractors to move forward. We got Jerry involved. We had Cindy Covell involved. She's our water attorney. We had Ryan involved, Cindy Neely involved. Cindy was majorly concerned about the hydrology and wanted studies so that, like Deanne's asking for an environmental impact study. And so basically we had a meeting, we had lots of Excel people in the room as well. And we concluded that we have been asking for multiple times testing to see what's in the sediment. We want to know what kind of contaminants are there. We would like to have the sediment removed. We want to know, because the impact study is going to be part of the contaminants. We want to know what that is. We want to know your plan to remove the sediment. And in the meantime, I said, I believe we would be okay moving forward with your trash exchange, your trash rack exchange, with the understanding that you're going to contain the current sediment. So we understand you're not ready to remove this sediment, but we want you to contain that. So you have to figure out a way to trap and contain the sediment. So that's part of their, they're going to do testing. And we're going to agree on what the testing is going to be. And they're going to supply a plan of how to contain the sediment. So that's what Excel is going to work on. We're going to meet again. Daniel Trujillo is their governmental representative that is going to be interacting with me. So we're going to meet again next week to follow up from his action plan of where they are. So that's in a nutshell. Any questions about Excel? One last thing just to say is the president of Excel is coming the first week of December to meet with us. And I already have a team kind of gathered of who's going to be there. And so that one is probably going to be a good thing for us because he's going to be able to say, yes, we're going to do that now. Because if not, we're not going to move forward with doing any of the watershed protection permit. We still need to have a plan forward. And we have not, it's been kind of piecemeal at this point, and we want a complete plan for what they're going to be doing.
My understanding, you started this back in the spring that they approached the agencies, federal agencies under an emergency situation and took this action. So without notifying us.
The water, correct.
So I assume we have this high level of confidence that these agreements we're making now with them, that yes, they can proceed, but they have to contain, and we're getting these reports that we have something to hold them to that.
So they went in this last meeting, I appreciate you asking that because that does open up a whole nother understanding level. They tried to explain us why we're in the situation that we're in, and that they chose to go the energy route because this is a decommissioning of this energy plant. And so they basically, there's two routes you go, energy and water. They chose energy, the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulation Commission. when we had to dredge ours and make some adjustments on our, and repairs on our dam, we did not have a choice, but we had to go through the water. And the amount of hoops that we had to go through was unreal. Well, we have also since then contacted the water side, the water commissioner, who's basically going to run the gamut to get those people involved in the next meeting. Because they bypassed that whole section saying, you know, just because it works for you, you're now causing us, and we're having two negative impacts. If the dam fails, we are negatively impacted. If you don't control the sediment, we're negatively impacted. So we're negatively impacted no matter what happens. I call it double jeopardy on them. They're just looking at the easiest cost-effective way to remedy their situation. So it's a liability that they don't want to hold on to, and they're trying to get rid of this as fast as they can. But getting rid of this is causing impacts on us because they shortchanged it. They went a fast route. The government stamped it and said, yes, you can move forward, but it never gave them the authority to bypass all the others. They just made the assumption. And now they're realizing that they made some mistakes.
So working with the water commission or whichever agency that is, they're going to be present at the December meeting when
We are
Mr.
trying to get them
President
there.
comes.
We are trying to get them. Yeah.
So like all the players in the room.
Yeah, we're trying to get the appropriate players in the room that have not been on at the table.
So you're talking Jason Smith.
Yes, correct. Another update, when we took this, the the deed restricted for affordable housing for multiple family, we took that to the planning commission for feedback.
I want to talk about the EIS. We have got to demand that Excel create an EIS if they haven't got one already. And if they have got one, I want to see it. What they're
We have
doing
not received.
by trying to do this expediently, like you were just saying, is blowing off the EIS, and there will be all these impacts that they will not be held responsible for, even though they are indeed the ones causing the problem.
I think the EIS is part of the water route, isn't it?
It is,
I mean, that's just,
yeah.
no,
They-
Been done
It
before
will
this
be-
started.
It will be part of this.
yeah, we're gonna get an EIS.
Yeah, we will get one, Deanne, once
Yeah,
they
but you
submit.
have to have it before you do the work, and they're already doing work, so they're already not in compliance.
Yes, because they bypassed it for an emergency cutting of the penstock. To put that elbow in, they deemed that an emergency reaction that then they came back and said, by the way, we're going to do decommissioning the whole thing. And we're working on that. They're just saying they're not there yet. They just want to do this emergency action. That was it. And that's what opened the whole door for us to see what was going on. So they're going to have to do all that stuff for the whole decommissioning process. And they know that. So they haven't technically started that
When
decommissioning
you
yet.
meet with them next week, ask them for the EIS. It's really important. It can hinge everything on a water project. It can stop them in their tracks for years.
I got it. I wrote it down. So going back to now I took this discussion item that we've talked about of making multifamily deed restricted in the housing, affordable housing. And we had lots of bullet points that they discussed. In a nutshell, they are comfortable with a 20% for an overall project is what they like. And, when we looked at just, are we going to exclude anything? Is there going to be a floor to say you got our threshold that if you're under this, you're fine? And they basically said anything that's greater than a duplex would have to be under this new rule. So they felt like they didn't want to give anybody, because they said that if you have property, they're afraid they were going to subdivide the property and then start doing a bunch of duplexes or quads to get around the system. So we want the developers to work for us and not us working for them. So they wanted the threshold to be anything greater than a duplex. But they liked all the other things, locals housing. I think the questions that came out of it that Jerry and I, after this meeting or this next week, I will send you these comments of what they made. But some of the questions that they had is, how do you prove employment? If someone qualifies, what if they get a new job? Or what if they move, they want to live in Georgetown, but they work in Summit County? Because that would, and how do we get around that? Who would enforce this? Would we get the housing authority or a multi-jurisdictional housing authority to vet this? And, you know, just, there's some questions that we had about it. So screening, inspecting, enforcing, all these kind of things that they were wanting to make sure that that was included. So that's that. Yes. We also took before the planning commission, where is it? For the historic residential, they wanted to make a change that went to the DRC. They had a joint meeting and they decided that the language that Martin had written up was not sufficient. And so they wanted to make a new change. Martin had created a floor area ratio to try to prevent larger homes being put in. And so it would not take away the 40% lot restriction, but it was just going to add for the square feet of the home. They came up with 30%. They agreed on 30%, but they wanted the DRC and the Planning Commission created and said they took out a sentence that then really changes the whole thing. They took out the sentence where it says, notwithstanding the above, a principal residential structure shall be permitted a maximum floor area of no less than 2,000 square feet. By taking that one sentence out, it really opens the door now to say your principal and accessory dwelling unit has to fall in that same number. So for example, a 5,000 square foot minimum lot size now, the greatest that you can build for your floor area ratio would be 1,500. That's your principal and accessory structure.
And what was it before? So it was.
So before it said 2,000 would be your minimum, but that was just for the principal structure. It did not count the accessory structure.
Okay.
So it does greatly affect it. So even if you were to go to 7,500 square foot lot, so it's a little bit bigger than the minimum, or sorry, the minimum lot size, it would be a 2,250. And for 10,000, it's two lots combined. 10,000, the largest you can build accessory and your principal would be 3,000. So that's significantly restricted compared. So I don't think that they understood by taking that sentence out what happened. So Martin wants to go back and have another discussion with them. So that's where we are on that. That's all I have. Sorry, that's all I wanted to highlight from my staff report. That's a lot. Cool.
All right. I thought you were going to, okay, so and then on the long-term
Yeah,
stays at motels, you're gonna just tell us where that's at.
That's so I've asked Jerry to continue the discussion of this. The next step would be to send a memo to all the motel hotel owners so that we can have a hearing. So we're going to schedule a hearing next.
So I heard back from most of the planning commission people, because we already, at our November meeting, we have 2 public hearings already. This is the third one, and so I asked them if they wanted to do a special meeting. And I got a response from 3 out of the 4, and they said, yeah, so we'll probably do it the 23rd or the 30th. We can be following 2 Wednesdays. Everybody said either one works, so.
The 23rd of November, that's the Wednesday before this.
So, yeah.
So it'll be probably the 30th.
We'll figure it out and let you know.
Okay. So that's, we're going to take it to a hearing, but we're going to make sure that the motels, hotels get a memo like this well in advance. So they have time to kind of prepare and think through this too, because basically they're all going to have to make changes in order to even do either a percentage or something. Because even Microtel, none of their facilities are set up for long-term living. It's not, they don't have kitchenettes or anything. They're not designed that way. So it will impact all of them.
Well,
Unless they choose not, to
go there.
to not allow
Yeah.
long-term residents, which they could do.
Yeah.
That's the other door.
Right. The microtel also has the hospitality units, which would have all those amenities.
Right. That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. In the townhomes, yeah.
I just wonder,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a question for them to have to kind of.
It is.
Not,
Because they get, it's kind of their market
Yeah.
and how they want to market to customers,
Yeah.
potential customers.
yeah, so that's where we are on the long term.
So jumping ahead on that though, once we get that all ironed out over the next several months, are we planning on incorporating a enforcement and penalty piece when they don't comply?
Yeah,
So we're not backtracking?
I've done these systems, or I put these systems together, and they involve a licensing program for all hotel motels, right? And then an extended stay addendum to your license. If you're gonna actually then allow long-term residents in you've got to show that you've got facilities, the appropriate cooking, et cetera, facilities in the larger, which for existing operations means they'll have to make actual changes. And then there's a healthy enforcement set of tools that relies upon inspection, et cetera, to determine that they have, in fact, if they're going to go the addendum, the long-term addendum. If they're not, they're a hotel or a motel, like any of them are now, but you want to make sure they're not allowing under the radar extended stay. But if they want to go for the extended stay and have that addendum to their hotel license, then there's inspection, regular inspection, compliance, and municipal court if there's a violation. It's a pretty well understood system, and it's pretty detailed to make certain that long-term stay isn't happening under the radar and without the appropriate facilities that you really expect to have if you're going to live there, which is of course different than just staying there for a motel setting.
But giving our law enforcement the options to take action when the call comes and they not only are they not in compliance, but okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a real, public health concern,
Okay.
and it's taken seriously.
So I realized there's a couple things that I had missed, and I want to make sure you are updated on. Ryan did get back with me because I asked him, is this residential commercial for the cross connection? And he said, this is his response. It's commercial and apartments. All residential are double checked already and do not need to be tested. So it is commercial with apartments, as you're talking about. And a quick, the fire authority draft IGA where we're at, we're going to have a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow.
Thursday.
With the county, and that will be with all the participants of the IGA in the same discussion so that we can look at all the changes, the revisions that were suggested. The last one was from the county. And so we kind of talked a little bit from that last meeting, and I communicated that we have a lot of issues with the comments. I think we were the only ones that really responded. Everyone else, it was like, oh, we're 95% okay. I think we're not 95% okay. We have a lot more issues. So they're gonna, we've not submitted anything yet, but we will discuss it on Thursday. That's that. And then the other one was accessory dwelling units. This one is still complicated. It's really three issues, and I want to try to explain it to you so that you would understand. Instead of reading it, it's the first one has to deal with new construction. So a home that's not built, it's going to be built, and they want an ADU. And so we're trying to say, do we want the code to say you have to have two lines? Or would we be satisfied if an engineer designed it so that it would have the capacity for both of that in one line? It's not ever going to be split. It's going to be
It's never going to be subdivided.
Subdivided, yes.
Right.
So, that's what we're asking. So that would be for new construction.
And usually these ADUs are like guest houses or,
Correct.
a garage or something like
yeah.
that. It would only make sense. I mean, if you have two separate lines, that's two separate tap fees, isn't it?
Correct.
That's really
That's a lot
expensive.
of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's at least 15 grand.
I don't think we're doing our citizens a service by gouging them on tap
Correct.
fees.
So that's new construction. The second one would be, all right, what about for an existing home that wants to do an ADU? Are we going to require them to do separate taps and separate meters? I meant to say meter, I forgot to say meters. Always it's going to be the same, separate taps, separate meters. Are we going to require the same for an existing home that wants to do an ADU above a garage? But now this is kind of convoluted because it could be a house that wants to make an ADU within the house.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. We have to make sure that the language would encompass that too. So are we saying that they have to do separate lines, or are we saying we're going to give the same option that an engineer can assess that? And if he clears it, then we're fine with it. You know, the same way if we get make a surveyor come and find the pins. As long as he submits that on your site plan, we're good with that. If you're going to put a fence up, we're requiring it now. So we could easily say, you have to have an engineer do an assessment to certify that this line would be sufficient. If not, then he could redesign it or have a separate tap. It's probably going to be similar in cost if he has to redesign the whole system. But anyways, that would be the second one.
I would imagine if you're gonna draw this up, you've got to, come up with like several categories.
Yeah.
And then address each one.
Yeah.
Certainly you're not gonna encompass everything, like what about an existing dwelling that and you want to put an ADU, but the ADU is a good 350 feet away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just another situation.
Yeah.
We're, probably not talking about here.
And a key here might be an engineering determination, a requirement for an engineering determination. You have the engineer actually squeeze it, and stamp it, that the system as designed or as presently designed or as to be revised or upgraded would work.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then maybe separate line. And I take your point about the circumstances just are so case by case that maybe your only safe place is to require a certified engineer stamp on the water sewer supply plan.
Yeah.
Both existing and proposed.
Or a second tap. You could have a parallel.
Yeah, I mean, you've always got, I suppose you've always have that option if you wanted to.
But it's something costly.
Yeah, it's costly, but
Although it might be as pointed
it's a
out,
long ways away.
if you've got an existing home and you want to add, it might be as costly to, and it's a substandard sewer line now.
Yeah.
Or substandard water line now, because I'm sure there are those out there.
No,
All of a sudden you're gonna have to dig a trench anyhow, so the question is, what do you do?
Mhm.
But it goes back to the engineering, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then the third scenario is, what are we going to do with all the existing homes that have ADUs? Are we going to require them to get new taps? Or they're going to have to get an engineer to assess to make sure that line's fine? So I'm concerned because it's going to create a lot of people who are going to be frustrated.
it's health and safety though. If they don't have the water pressure on the line, it's not safe to be there.
Yeah, so it's just something that you guys need to be assessed. So the questions that we've been asking internally is, what the current ones that we have right now that we know of, how big of a problem is this? Are we seeing issues with ADUs backing up or whatever? Are we seeing issues? And the answer is no, we're not seeing issues right now. Are there existing ADUs that we're not aware of? The answer is yes. And we're trying to figure out that right now. And some of it, we can look at our EQR ratings. If it's a higher rating, that means they're having something else attached to that and they're using. I would love to be able to say if someone is there an indicator that shows that person household is using way more water than normal? Well, some people, like Merrick reminded me, some people take 3 showers a day. So that's going to be more than some others who do only one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to just by looking at the water usage, but we can look at EQRs, and we also are aware of a few that do exist that are not permitted for that. So we're going to try to get a hold of that. But anyways, that's just the last thing I wanted to inform you about.
All right. If we've covered everything we need to cover under staff items, does anybody have anything else? Before we move on, because we've got other things to do.
Really?
You want to do the gateway commercial?
Yeah, sure. The gateway commercial, the update for that one was the planning commission was only interested in making a revision to allow commercial on the bottom and residential on the above floors. They were not interested in any of the other scenarios that we had put in there.
Okay.
A percentage or a mixed use of second floor or lower floor, of doing a combination of residential and commercial on the same floors. They were not interested in that. They were not interested in having separate buildings, one residential, one commercial in the same plat. They were not interested in that. They were only interested in commercial on the bottom with residential on the above floor.
And that makes best.
Yeah.
So consistent with
Yeah.
The what?
it's consistent with Sixth Street, the way we're set up
Oh,
here.
existing.
Yeah, consistent with existing Sixth Street. But we're just expanding it to the gateway.
Well, the change that we're making in the gateway is to not necessarily allow for a higher percentage of residential as long as the ground floor is all.
So we're still making changes down there, but it's just,
Special use only. Yeah, they would have to apply for a special use permit.
Sure.
And even if the other developer that is submitting, has submitted an application that's going to the DRC, that one would still, because it's in the gateway commercial, that one would still be rejected by even the new change to the code. Because he's wanting to do 100% residential. Yeah. With no commercial. So that one would still have to either change zoning or change the plan.
Okay. All right, so Jerry has just pointed out to me that we need to flip, if we're going to do the executive session tonight, we need to flip it with the work session because you can only do an executive session as part of a regular meeting. So we need to get those two switched.
Yeah, you can just, take a motion to go into executive session, have that session come back out of executive session to take any actions regarding the administrator's contract. Then you can adjourn the meeting to the.
And then go
work
into
session.
budget work session. Okay,
All right. And
we'll just have to do logistics for that.
Meeting. Sorry.
Okay,
and John
we'll make it.
I got my glasses on.
are you ready for the motion?
I'm ready.
Didn't even mean to rush you.
I believe.
John had the motion, conscience, that's an M.
Okay.
Town administrator on a personal matter review of town administrator. I further move to. You can move it from here. Executive session.
Okay. I think I can get that.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry, usually I have to type that. You can do it.
I'll get it. I'll try. I move to go into executive session for our conference under section 24-6-402. Parent 4, parent F, CRS with the town attorney, town administrator on a personnel matter review of town administrator. I further move to return to the open meeting after the executive session. Perfect.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session and then return to the regular meeting after the executive session. All in favor, say aye. Okay, it's unanimous.
She said, I
Yes.
think she just waves at this thing, it's works actually. Sorry, this is an old version that I had to kind of.
So Deanne, I will send you another link for the work session.